Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our daily Facebook Live show called For Your Joy. This is a show where we take one biblical text and we look at it by asking four different biblical questions, and I pray that that would be for your joy. If you're blessed by the show and you want to help us get the message of the gospel out there to as many people as we possibly can, all you have to do is like this show, subscribe to it on YouTube, or share it on Facebook, and let's inundate the internet with the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. So, with that, today we're going to be looking at love. As we enter into the Holy Week, we're going to be looking at the fruit of the Spirit called love, and we learn about this in Galatians 5, where Paul mentions the fruits of the Spirit, and he says in verse 22, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law." So let's begin with love. What is biblical love, and how do we find it? How do we live by this ethic of love? How do we have it? Those are questions that we're going to be asking as we explore this today. And as we do that, I can think of no better passage in all of the Bible to unpack what it means to have biblical love than John 3:16. John 3:16 says it like this: "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have eternal life." Now, what does this teach us about God? I think first and foremost it teaches us that God is unbelievably loving, and that his love is not like ours. His love is not bound up in feelings or emotions. It's not fickle from one day to the next. His love is covenantal, meaning that he is giving love to people who have not earned it and are not attractive. They have not deserved his love. He's giving love to people who have absolutely nothing to offer him. Instead of giving love to get something in return, he is offering love to give something. And what did he give? He gave his Son. It says, "For God so loved the world that he gave," which means that at the very root of and at the heart of biblical love is this idea of sacrifice. But as you and I know, that is not the way that we love. We allow Hollywood and culture to allow us to think that biblical love is an emotion, or it's a feeling, or it's an attraction. And when we feel those things, and you and I would say that we are in love, and when those things are gone, we would say that we've fallen out of love. Is it any wonder that there's so much divorce in this country? That there's so much infidelity? That there's such a cheap view of what it means to be in a relationship? Because we don't know what biblical love is. Biblical love is not motivated out of how attractive, pleasurable, or comforting someone else can make you feel. Biblical love is covenantal commitment. It is sacrificially seeking the good for another person even when they do not deserve it, especially when they do not deserve it. Biblical love is laying yourself down so that you can bless and serve someone else. This is what God does for us when he sends his one and only Son to rescue us. And that is what we in our flesh so often fail to do. But this is also where the gospel comes in. When we ask the question, who is Christ? Christ is the one who came to restore our broken capacity for love. He didn't come based on what we could give to him. He came so that what he can give to us. We brought nothing to him but the sin that made his death absolutely necessary. So he did not come because we earned it. He came in order to sacrifice. He came to love us even when we could not deserve it. He said in John 15:13, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone would lay down his life for his friends." Think about that statement. That is Jesus making that statement on the very week that he would die. And he's saying that's what love is. Sacrificial love. Biblical love. Paul talks about this in Romans 5, verse 8, where he says, "But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." Which leads us to our final question today. What might the Spirit of God want to do with this inside of you? And I would say maybe two things. First, I pray that the Spirit would make you and I more loving. Not nicer. I'm not talking about that. Not more emotional, not more passionate, not more loving in that way. More loving in the biblical way. More sacrificial. Willing to care for someone when they maybe even deserve our wrath. Willing to lay ourselves down, our schedules down, our priorities down. I struggle with this all the time, but willing to lay ourselves down for the good of someone else. That is what biblical love is. And second, I just want to remind you, please do not try to walk away from today's episode thinking that you can be more loving, thinking that you just need to try harder, that you just need to grind it out, and then maybe you can be more loving. Maybe for one day you could do that. Maybe if you're really great at it, you could do it for two. But you cannot sustain that effort on your own human merit. This is why these are fruits of the Spirit. Because you can try to be more loving, patient, kind, and everything else, and you can try with all of your might to do that, but you cannot maintain. This is why you need to be redeemed by Jesus and indwelled by his Spirit. This is why this is called a fruit of the Spirit, because he is the power at work in you that produces the fruit in you. You don't get to produce the fruit of the Spirit in yourself. You have to be indwelled by the Spirit. So it's my prayer that you would not go try harder to be more loving, but that the Spirit would move in such a way that today, even today, that you would be growing in such a way that you are more loving, that you're responding in a more loving way, that your heart has love bound up inside of it because of what the Spirit of God is doing in you. Again, not your power. I pray that it's his power at work in you. And when that happens, it will be for your joy. Join us tomorrow as we look at another fruit of the Spirit. And until then, you are loved.